life I had.
Yeah, well, maybe different than the life you had when you were young. But you know, you've been through lots of different phases of life. And the reason you're here was because when you lived with Dad, and after Dad died, then you decided you'd come live here with us.
Mm-hmm.
And you're here with me. I'm Dan, your son. You're here with Matt, your son.
You are related. You are.
I am. I'm your son.
That, yeah.
Your son Dan.
Uh-huh.
And Matt also lives here, and he's your son. And he has 3 children, and their names are River, and Sparrow, and Jackson, and those are your grandchildren. And you moved here originally 11 years ago to help take care of those grandchildren.
To do what?
To help take care of those grandchildren.
Uh-huh.
Because for a little while they didn't have their mom living here. And so you moved here. And you've lived here ever since. You've lived here for 11 years.
I was at first in Dublin.
When you were young, that's right. You were in Dublin.
And then later, I moved. When I finished, I did graduate, and I'm sure that I was over there because of the language.
That your parents had you go to the colonies because those were English schools.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And so they felt that, but I can remember they'd say, if I would do something for you, or I'd want to, and I said, don't worry, they would know with tomorrow.
Yeah.
If I did something,
we couldn't do anything that wasn't all right, because even though our parents didn't live here, there were enough people around that they would find out within a day.
I have a real memory of the people that I lived with. And
the Johnson family.
Jensen.
Was it Jensen? I thought it was Johnson, but okay.
It probably was Johnson, and we called it both.
Something, yeah.
And where were you living?
I'm your son, so I wasn't born till many years later, but you've told me this story, and I have always loved hearing it, so I still kind of remember it. Yeah, I still remember it because I'm your son, and I'm very interested in, because since you're my mom, I'm very interested in your story and what it was like for you to grow up. Yeah.
And that's why I felt so close to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you remember the colonies at all?
I never grew up in the colonies because you had grown up, went on a mission, and you got married to Dad, and you and Dad kind of had some adventures. You know, you lived in Italy, and you lived in Charleston, South Carolina, and things like that, and then you went to BYU, and you got his degree, and when you graduated from BYU, you had 5 kids, and Dad got a job offer from Boeing up in Seattle. So you moved to Seattle with Dad and 5 kids, and while you were in Seattle, you had 6 more children. Paul, Matthew, Daniel, Jenny, John, and Mark. And then Pamela came along as well. So then we had an even dozen kids. And
well, she was adopted.
Yeah, yeah.
More like she just was someone that no one...
Yeah, that just had some struggles, and we had an opportunity to have her come live with us, and she became just like family. Yeah.
I appreciate this so much. Lately I've just been thinking, why am I so far away from my family?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And it's interesting because I feel really close to you, and I always have.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're my mom, and I'm your son, and I love you. And I feel so lucky that you get to live with me. So lucky.
I thank you so much. I needed someone, and I've never, this whole time that I can remember, because I had someone go through and explained why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was that when I got home, when my parents died, then I wasn't with the family as much. I was there and not.
Yeah, you were married by the time your parents died. And so even though Dad wasn't there with you at the time, you were married and you had Patty and Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
And you were expecting Catherine. And you had Catherine. You delivered Catherine right after your dad died. And so at that point you weren't living with your parents because you were still growing up. You just went to stay with your parents to help out because your mother had just passed away. And you were going to be there with your dad for a little bit. Yeah. And so you haven't lived with your mom or your dad it's been almost 60 years.
Oh, I totally know that.
Yep. And instead you just had 54 wonderful years with Jim, your husband, who was my dad too, because you're my mom. And you were the most awesome, amazing parents that have ever existed. Unless you made us sit on the couch because we were running. Then you weren't very awesome. But 99.9% of the time, you were awesome parents.
Do you remember Sunday morning?
Maybe. Sunday mornings were crazy because all of us had to take showers, and if it was fast Sunday, all of us were groaning and complaining that we felt like we were going to die because we couldn't eat. But yeah, I remember Sunday mornings. They were fun. Every morning, all of our days growing up were fun. You and Dad made our home a wonderful place full of love and laughter.
And do you remember that he would go from the kitchen, come along, and then go down and flip you?
Yes, we had a circle in our house. Dad would lay on his back, and we could run around the house and put our arms out, and he would kind of grab us right by our shoulders and put his feet on our tummies, and he would hold on to our shoulders or our arms and flip us over his head with his legs and make us land on our feet again. And we would land on the ground and start running around that circle again, super excited to get back to Dad.
I just love to do that.
And get another flip. That's right. Yeah, I remember all those things because we had a wonderful upbringing with you and Dad. We loved it.
And then did I go back to Mexico? I guess I went back when
You went back when your parents died. You were there during that time. But then after that, you just were with Dad. And you guys lived at BYU. And I don't know if you were in Charleston, South Carolina after that time or before that time. I'm not quite sure of the timeline of it. But eventually when Dad graduated from BYU, you moved to Seattle. That was in 1965. And you lived in Seattle till the year 2000. So you lived in Seattle for 35 years. Yeah. 35 years you lived in Seattle. And then you moved to Utah, to Pleasant Grove.
Yeah,
And you had a
that's right.
beautiful house right down the street from the temple.
That's right.
And you were down visiting Catherine one time. And on your way home, because you had just gotten the offer to sell your house up in Seattle, so you had this money to spend. And on your way home, Dad said, let's just pull off this exit where there's this new temple and just look around. And you drove around and you saw this house. And within an hour or two, you had already signed the papers to say you were going to buy that house in Pleasant Grove and be so near to the temple. Yeah. I remember. Well, I don't remember that, but you told me that. You've told me those stories, and I love to hear them. And let's see what else I can remember. So while you were there in Utah, you loved it because you had a big house and you had lots of visitors. And they would come down when people were leaving on missions, when people went down for conference, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
When people were getting married and had receptions, you just were there all the time.
And what I remember about that is everyone would come,
Mm-hmm.
and then not only did I have to get them in, I worked hard and made a whole set of stuff that they would need.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I knew that if they came, they needed food
Uh-huh.
and all of that. But then they also needed everything like you regularly go.
Yeah.
And you remember that house?
I really remember that house. I love that house. Yeah. And after Dad died, a lot of your kids went down and helped you get that house ready to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And then you eventually sold that house, and that's when you moved here to Boise. And you've been here ever since. You've been here for 11 years, living with me.
You've been with me all this time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I love it. I'm the lucky one. You have 10 other children who are still alive, and they're the unlucky ones. And I'm the lucky one. So I get to say, na, 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 na. Grandma lives with me.
And you helped me out so much when I
Got your blanket.
So we can put that on Grandma's bed. Yeah,
Hi.
I washed her quilt and it's dry, so Jackson was doing some laundry and he got Grandma's blanket out of the dryer.
Mm-hmm. The thing, what I would say is, and then I finally made a little place. I made it like a bed, but just something like this side.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I could, because not only did they want to have a place to stay, they wanted me to take them to see all the different things they could buy.
Down there in Idaho.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yes. You needed to be a good hostess and a tour guide and a hotel operator and a cook and a maid and a laundry person and a mom and a grandma and an aunt and a sister. You were all of those things because of all of your wonderful family that would come visit.
Yeah.
And you had a beautiful large home and that had room for everybody.
And we even had one room that was perfect for him for his work.
Dad's little office
Uh-huh.
that had a little desk and some built-in cabinets. And Dad could load up the shelves and things with all of his hobbies. His dad liked to tinker with things. He liked to take apart electronics and fix it and see how it works. And you used to complain because Dad liked to work on computers, so he'd fix a computer up for you that you could use like to write family letters and things. And then next thing you know, he was fiddling around with that computer and you couldn't use it anymore.
Now, do you?
And you'd say, Dad, I need a computer that I could use. So then he'd fix it again and you'd be able to use it for a while.
Did you feel close to almost everyone there?
Yes, yeah.
Like right now, you would feel that close?
Yeah, with all of our family,
Uh-huh.
for sure. Let's try it again. Let's try to remember all the names. So it goes Pam, Patty, Jimmy, Catherine, David, Evelyn, Paul, Matthew, Daniel, Jenny, John, and Mark. Those are all of your children. Do you want to try to say them?
What?
Do you want to try to say all those names? For a long time, you were really good at just saying all those names. Do you want to try it?
Matthew,
No, so Pam, start at Pamela.
Pam, Patty, Jimmy, Catherine, David, Evelyn, Paul, Mike, Dan, Jenny, John, and Mark.
That's right. Boom, boom, boom. You got it. You're good at it.
And then,
Okay, now how about this? Now how about your own family? Your own sisters and your brother Bill. Do you remember all those names in order? Starting with
Anna Marie, Lucille. Oh,
Anna Marie.
Anna
Yes.
Marie, Lucille, Gerda, Bertha, Carmen, Chita, Lynn, and Kata.
And I think the only one you're missing was Bill. You forgot to mention Bill.
Is who?
Is Bill. You forgot to mention Bill. So start again. So Anna Marie.
Bill.
So Anna Marie, Lucille. And who came after Lucille? Was it Gerda?
Uh-huh.
And then who came after Gerda?
Gerd, Bill,
Bill.
Bertha,
Bertha,
Carmen, Chita,
Carmen, Ramona, Chita,
Elena,
Elena,
Kata.
Kata. There's all 10. Yeah. Awesome. Those were your brother. I say brothers and sisters, but you just had one brother. So those were your brother and sisters.
Uh-huh.
And then you had your children that you already named off. Pam, Patty, Jimmy, Catherine, David, Evelyn, Paul, Matthew, Daniel, Jenny, John, Mark. 12 kids.
I wonder when I forgot things. I think it was because I was over in Israel, way away from the plant for so long.
Maybe so. I think that also you're 87 years old, and when people get older, sometimes they forget things, but that's a very normal part of getting older. So it's not even something to worry about. The thing to remember, even though you're older, is that you have people here who love you, and if you have any questions, you can just ask questions, and we can help you remember again.
No, I wouldn't. No, I don't feel that I would. It just gives me joy to talk to you about this. It makes me so proud.
We're the happy ones because you're our mama and grandma and great-grandma.
I think you're also great-great-grandma.
And a great-great-grandma. But the first great is as in wonderful great.
What?
You're a great-grandma, but you're also a great-grandma. You're a great-grandma because you have great-grandchildren, but you're a great-grandma also because you're a wonderful grandma.
Does she have any great-great-grandchildren?
Not yet.
The thing is, let's
She's
not.
great and she has great-grandchildren.
I don't want to stay close with you.
You do want to stay close.
I do want to stay close.
And we
with
will,
you.
because you live here with me. I get to see you every day. And we need to have these fun conversations. So we'll do that. we'll have these fun conversations.
Mm-hmm. Because that was. Do you remember Aunt Gerda?
Of course I remember Aunt Gerda and Uncle Carl. And they had that house in Utah. And that was where everybody would stay and visit. And they always had a whole bunch of people over for Sunday dinner.
Every Sunday dinner.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember. Taking family trips down there for conference or during the summer.
And sometimes I'd get, we had so many people that I'd make a little thing like this for them to put their things in down in the basement.
Okay, yeah.
And I would complain a little bit because I'd say, that I love having them come to here, and I love to do all the things, but it's hard to go with everybody to buy the things that they want to buy while they're away from home.
Right. To take them to all the stores or any of the places they want to visit, that it just can become a lot to do. Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember, probably just there was the kitchen and the dining room, and it would.
Yep, there was the kitchen and the dining room that was right next to the kitchen, where there was that small little table. Yep. And that's kind of where everybody would sort of hang out and visit, because that's almost true in any house. That whatever living space is attached to the kitchen, that's where people are going to hang out the most.
That's the truth.
Pretty much all conversation happens around food.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Well, I don't know what time it wasn't.
Yeah. But that's often the case. That's where people visit and hang out, is whatever's closest to the kitchen.
When Gerda passed away, we thought, what are we going to do? Because Aunt Gerda would...
That was the gathering place. And you kind of took over that with your house.
She...
for a lot of the Pratt and the Gale cousins and things would come and visit you now when you in your house in Pleasant Grove, instead of Aunt Gerda's house in Orem. Yeah.
Is there anyone from that family that you talked to on the phone or write letters to? Or?
Well, we have a family letter, and we've read it to you. You might have forgotten a little bit what it said, but we have a Pratt family letter that we send a letter into every month, and to tell what's happening with our family, and then all the families of your brother and sisters, they write. They're part of that letter, and we find out what everybody's doing every month. But I also get to see family too, like your niece Kathy Pratt. She came to visit once. We had a wonderful visit, and you've been able to visit with. When we had the pandemic, Uncle Charles and Tia Kata couldn't come to the United States for a while. But not very long ago, maybe 2 months ago, they got to come visit for a day or so. So that was a wonderful visit. And then you have a niece, Gail. Her name is Gail Bryce. And that is your sister Carmen's oldest daughter. And she came to Boise. I think she and her husband Jim came on business. But they came to Boise, and they came to visit with you for a little bit. We had dinner one night and just had a wonderful visit with them. So we don't see family very often, but we love it when they come and we get to say hi and visit with them again.
We did it more. We went to see them, everyone else more until some of them passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And then for them it was, and I was, this is something I said once, was it's easy to keep the house clean and have food ready, but it's hard to get to all the places they want to
That they want to go shopping and things they want to see.
But I just said, this is, I didn't say it to them,
But that's what
to the
you,
family.
probably you said it to Dad,
Uh-huh.
to Jim. Yeah, yeah. But you were always a wonderful, wonderful host.
And Gerda was
The
amazing.
hostess with the mostest.
Uh-huh.
She was a wonderful host for years and years, for decades. She was, the Haneys were the place to be in Utah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Would you go to visit her?
Your sister Gerda passed away.
Passed away.
But I know all of her children, and they're my cousins.
Uh-huh.
And yes, I'd love to visit any of them. They're wonderful. They're wonderful.
I am so glad. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime that you're kind of not sure about something or have questions, you can just ask. And we love to talk about it. We love it.
So what do you think? Do you think that thing's a real thing? Or?
So, we love to talk about it anytime you want. You can ask questions. And we'll talk about it.
You know, I didn't feel like I was so fun, so away from it until I came up here.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
As long as we were in Provo.
Then there's always family coming and going.
Uh-huh.
But family doesn't drive through Boise very often.
Uh-uh.
That's true. That's true.
I felt so close to them all, and then when we moved up here is when I felt.
Maybe felt a little bit away,
separated.
Yeah. And you love your family. You love your brother and sisters, and now you just have 3 sisters who are alive, but you love those sisters, and you love all of your nieces and nephews.
And your sons and daughters.
And your sons and daughters. You've told us many, many stories of how much you love all of those people.
Yeah.
Wonderful.